Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching us today. On our program is Michael Ruley. He's the CEO of Airband Communications. Michael, how are you?
Great, Rich. How are you today?
Good, good. So many of our viewers know that your company is a big player in the fixed broadband market for wireless for businesses. And I was hoping we could get an update on what's happening with your company. What's some of the recent news and developments?
Sure, Rich. Absolutely. As you mentioned, Airband Communications is now the nation's largest fixed wireless provider for businesses. We put a merger together with Sparkplug Communications last August and have been busy putting the two companies together, now creating a footprint that expands 17 commercial markets. We're actually in 30 states with our network. We have a relationship with a large systems integrator, and we go in and provide services to hospitals for them. But we have 17 commercial markets. So we're an independent managed fixed wireless network. It's our own network, and the beauty of what we do is we can provision services across our network that bypass kind of the choke points you'd find in some of the incumbent networks, because the capacity demand for services for broadband is just insatiable right now. Everything's being hosted elsewhere, application demand, demand for the internet service, VoIP, bundled services. The demand for our product is just large out there, and not only for our services, but the other incumbent carriers. And the difference is it's our own network. So we go to the rooftop of a building, we put up a small radio, and we're set to go and delivering high capacity services. So the demand for a product is very high right now.
Now you've got lots of different reasons to purchase broadband. One is as a disaster recovery, having redundant networks. Are you seeing companies changing the way they're purchasing from you as a redundant provider at all? Or?
That's an excellent question, because I think historically speaking, for the enterprise accounts, they would think of this as a redundancy play, where they'd have a carrier such as an AT&T as their primary provider, and they would use fixed wireless as a separate network as a redundancy play. Now we're starting to see a shift from, because of the capacity requirements coming from customers, we're actually the primary, and then a secondary player with a coaxial, or it could be cable, it can be telco, it can be fiber optic fed. We're actually the primary, and the backup could be somebody else. But we're really, for a lot of businesses today, a replacement technology. They're using us exclusively. So where they might have used us as a backup before, they're thinking as a primary today, because the technology has come such a long way. It's reliable, it's scalable, it's manageable. We've got a knock on it 7x24, looking at everything in the network. It just works, and the quality of service is there. So it's really evolved as somewhat maybe a T1 replacement historically, a backup service historically for customers, really as a primary consideration in their minds of customers.
And what, in terms of the network uptime, are there numbers that you're able to give out across?
Well, it'll be in the same range as you find with other incumbent networks, in the 4.9 reliability standpoint. We wouldn't be in business if we didn't have that kind of quality.
Sure. Are the challenges ever with objects getting in the way of the equipment, such as trees or something like that?
There are requirements that we see the other end. So it's a line, point-to-point, fixed wireless. We have to see the other end.
Sure.
If we can't, there might be a building in the way, there might be a tree in the way. We just have to come at it from a different angle. There are situations where we just simply can't see a customer once in a while. So those do happen with the network. But the network's getting pretty dense in our cities, where we can usually get at the building rooftop through another angle.
And there are even television networks that are working with you, right?
Oh, we transmit everything across our network. The Phoenix Suns have been a long-time customer, and their broadcasts come across our network. Their high-definition broadcasts come across our network. So everything from video to high-speed data to small, medium businesses, a complete VoIP solution, we're offering across this network. And the capacity, you think about it, well, how much can you put across this network? We can put a gig across this network on a point-to-point basis. So 500 megs. We see customers that want 50 megs of internet capacity. That's a lot of capacity to the internet. And you think about not too long ago, just a T1 was a lot of capacity. Now we measure it in magnitudes of 10 megs, 20 megs for customers. So that demand is being created not by us, but by the applications that are hosted elsewhere. So we're in really a high growth mode. And even when the economy was down earlier through this horrible recession we had, we still had a high demand for our services.
So as you look out to the future, what are some of the things that are limiting your growth, if anything?
Well, what limits our growth is probably geography. We're in 17 markets. We have customers now that want us to go places that we don't have a network, and we need more geography. We need more cities in the network. So we're always looking for acquisitions. We have an active M&A movement in the company, and we need to buy more companies and merge with more companies to create a larger footprint. We're the largest now, but customers are asking us to go to places where we don't have a footprint. So I'd say that's limiting our growth. We can go deeper in the current markets that we are, but again, we're being asked by larger enterprise accounts to service, my locations across the country. So that's probably a limiter. Another limitation is we just have to get onto the roof of a building, and that takes some time, and sometimes we just can't get on a roof of a building for whatever reason. But there's really not much limiting our growth, beyond that. Organically, the company is growing as quick as we've ever seen it.
And does 4G dent any of that growth potential?
Well, 4G is in the sense of wireless, cellular wireless is causing demand in those networks, and we actually think that we can use our network to offload some of the cellular's capacity onto our network.
Sure.
So we can backhaul it back to the carrier on our network. We can take the load off the cellular company's network. And therefore, when a customer walks into we can put up a Wi-Fi network, backload it into our fixed wireless network, and we can haul it back to them.
So it's an opportunity potentially.
That's a good growth opportunity.
Both. And the way I see it, you'll have a spike of broadband capacity, wireless broadband capacity nationwide. Within 2 to 3 years, the spike in video viewership will probably offset most of the 4G gains. That's how I see this playing out. All of us now have multiple devices. We're streaming video, 3D video, HD video, and you're doing it over these soon-to-be 4G networks, and so that's going to basically put such a strain on them.
Yeah, I think there's no it's a ways down the road before the capacity requirements. The capacity is going to be there, and demand is not. I think there's more demand for capacity, and that's going to stay that way for a while.
Probably.
So we can put a meshed Wi-Fi network up with our fixed wireless network, and therefore when you walk into our meshed Wi-Fi network, it'll take that, you won't even know it, it'll be seamless, it'll take that call and then we'll hand it back to the incumbent carrier, and therefore alleviate that capacity.
Okay, so final question is from a value standpoint, how do you, I know you're in multiple markets so it may vary, but in general, are there some things that you're seeing in terms of your customers purchasing from you and getting superior value to the incumbents?
Well, I'd say that at the lower end of the market, it's very competitive. You've got cable serving the lower end of the business market now, and you've got a lot of noise down at the lower end. When you start getting up into the 10 megs and 20 megs of internet capacity and bundled hosted voice seats with that, that's really our sweet spot, and that's really where we see ourselves more economically advantageous for customers. And not many other carriers can actually provide that much capacity with the kind of fluidity that we do. We just have a very agile technology, and it's easier to work with, and therefore we really serve that segment very well. Our customers are constantly asking for more bandwidth, and a lot of time that bandwidth is not available in these other networks, or it takes a long time to get it. When we have our own independent network, we're not relying on anybody else. It's easier for us to do that. So customers we're actually seeing our revenue per customer continue to go up, because again, the requirements are so great for bandwidth and broadband that they're asking us and we can deliver it. So I think our value proposition continues to move up because of that.
I'm going to have one more final question. Can you turn bandwidth up on demand? Assuming the equipment is the appropriate equipment,
via software.
Doesn't need to be upgraded. You can.
We can.
From what range to what range?
Well, we can see miles and miles.
I apologize, but from what amount of throughput to what amount of?
Well, we can turn customers up another 10 megs, 20 megs, and it depends on how much is in the backhaul network. Sometimes you need to upgrade the backhaul to do that.
Got it.
But for most requirements, one of our biggest verticals is hospitality, hotels, because they have events that they need bandwidth for. We can actually turn up the capacity for that event and then turn it down.
And
we can do that via software.
Personal experience that many of the hotels in the U.S. are atrocious, and they require they should be calling you right now before customers like me stop staying in those hotels.
It's our biggest vertical. and it's
And
growing
it should
quickly.
be, and it makes a lot of sense.
We just had a press release with extended stay hotels where we're providing service to the hotels.
Very logical. You go to any communication show in this country or technology show in this country, and you'll see that the hotel networks just die.
Right.
Very few of them can keep up.
Right. So that's why that's such a growth segment for us.
Makes a lot of sense. And well, thank you for providing that service. I can tell you firsthand as a user that it's extremely valuable, and good luck with your growth.
You bet, Rich. Thanks for having us here today.